The topic of I'm talking today is, I think, extremely important. Many people get overweight. A majority of adults in the United States and in Europe, it's beginning also to be so. And of course, it's the food. Food is not good. But when you look at young adults, many young adults have a bad food. You have an Olympic champion that won a lot of gold medals in the Olympics, a swimmer. And, well, when you look at his food, it's horrible. So I don't know how he became a champion, probably by his willpower. And so young adults do not become fat so easy because they have more hormones. And so we're going to see what are the hormone deficiencies behind the metabolic syndrome, and so what you can do, because it's not sufficient in older adults to improve the food, you need to correct the hormones too. So this is the metabolic syndrome. What is it actually? It's a syndrome with several features. Central obesity, that means abdominal obesity. There's a lot of fat in the abdomen. And they have usually lipid disorders like low HDL cholesterol, below the 40 milligrams per deciliter, and triglycerides below the above the 150 milligrams per deciliter, with a higher blood pressure, systolic above the 130, which is not very high, but it's already considered as a feature of the metabolic syndrome, and diastolic blood pressure that is actually above the 85 millimeters mercury, and a fasting plasma glucose above the 100 milligrams per deciliter, with often higher insulin levels. So central obesity, this is fundamental, and this type of obesity is linked to much more age-related diseases, more cancer, more heart disease, etc. So what is very important is measuring the waist-on-hip ratio. The waist measurement is done really on the smallest circumference of the belly, and on the hip measurement is made on the largest measurement around that region below. And I don't know if I have a pointer here. I think so, okay. So behind abdominal obesity, you can have retroperitoneal fat accumulation, or visceral. Both are, I would say, quite unhealthy, while the subcutaneous fat that is accumulated on the surface of the abdomen is not so related with age-related diseases. And you see that the prevalence of abdominal obesity in the United States has kept on increasing and is now stabilizing around the 70%, which is still quite a lot. You see that in elderly women, there is, especially around age 60 and 65, but also a little bit before, more abdominal obesity in this study in Brazil. Prevalence of obesity in Canada follows a bit the same features. 77% of men at age 50 or above have this abdominal obesity. And in women, it's even worse. There's an extremely high score then of abdominal obesity. And it is known that the abdominal fat decreased insulin sensitivity. You see that when the waist-to-hip ratio is more important, it's greater, there's more abdominal obesity, and there is a decrease in insulin sensitivity. So this waist circumference that you see, we need to do absolutely to reduce it. Very low waist circumference is below the 70 centimeters, but very high can reach above the 110 centimeters in women, and slightly more in men. So how to reduce the metabolic syndrome features with hormone therapies? So I'm not going to talk about the food, but much of the food decreases hormone levels. If you eat, for example, whole grain bread, every morning you will lose sex hormones. You will become more neutral and less masculine, less feminine. There's a loss of about 30% of sex hormones that come in the stools when you eat whole grain bread because of the fiber. The fiber interrupts the cycle that comes from the liver, where it secretes 60% of the sex hormones, and then the hormones go in the intestines, and they are